Nisha only wanted one thing that night: a cab. She had been standing outside the glass doors of the office building for what felt like forever, her shoulders slumped under the weight of exhaustion. The cool night air of San Francisco brushed against her face, but it did little to wake her up. Her eyes burned, dark circles resting beneath them like permanent shadows. All she could think about was getting home, collapsing onto her bed and sleeping so deeply that even an alarm wouldn't dare disturb her. She opened her phone and tapped on the ride-hailing app, barely paying attention as the screen loaded. Then a name blinked onto the display. Driver, Mark Peterson vehicle, white sedan, ETA, 3 minutes. Her brows pulled together slightly. Not again. She remembered thinking that it was strange. This was the third night in a row she had been assigned the same driver. It wasn't impossible, she told herself. Maybe he worked night shifts regularly. Maybe the algorithm just paired them up often. Still, it felt off. She lifted her gaze toward the quiet street. In the distance, 2 bright headlights appeared, slowly approaching like twin eyes cutting through the darkness. The white sedan rolled to a stop in front of her. The driver leaned slightly toward the open window and greeted her casually, as if they already knew each other. His voice carried a strange familiarity, something too comfortable for a late-night ride. She confirmed it was him and got in without much thought. Nisha, 26 years old, worked as a content moderator, a job that left her mentally drained and emotionally numb by the end of every shift. Her ID card still hung around her neck, and her laptop bag weighed heavily against her shoulder. She slid into the back seat, fastened her seatbelt, and instinctively checked the route on her phone. From Mission District to Oakland Hills, a completely normal route. The car began to move. Outside, the night stretched endlessly. Occasional trucks rumbled past, and a few distant cars flickered by. Streetlights lined the road, casting a dull, almost mournful glow that barely pushed back the darkness. For the first few minutes, everything felt ordinary, until it didn't. She noticed the turn too late. Instead of merging onto the main highway, the car drifted off into a quieter road, one she didn't recognize. The surroundings began to change. Buildings grew sparse, then industrial. Old warehouses replaced apartments. Rusted gates, broken fences, and shuttered factories loomed on either side. Nisha felt a small knot tighten in her chest. She leaned forward slightly and mentioned that the route seemed wrong, that the app showed a different way. The driver didn't turn around immediately. Instead, he looked at her through the rearview mirror. His eyes were deep-set and unnervingly tired, as if he hadn't slept in years. He calmly explained that the app didn't always know the best route at night. He preferred roads with fewer stops, fewer signals. It would get them there faster. His tone was normal, too normal. Nisha hesitated, then leaned back again. It made sense, she told herself. Drivers knew better than apps sometimes. Still, her fingers stayed wrapped tightly around her phone. The car moved deeper into the industrial zone. The silence outside felt heavier now. The streetlights flickered occasionally, and every shadow seemed longer than it should be, stretching unnaturally across cracked pavement and broken walls. Then, suddenly, a burst of static crackled through the car's radio. Nisha flinched slightly. The static grew louder, sharper, before settling into something else. A voice, old, distorted, as if it were traveling through time itself. It announced a broadcast, calm, official, and completely out of place. A date, July 2nd, 2012. Nisha frowned. She found it odd. Who even listened to old radio broadcasts anymore? Everything now was music streaming, podcasts, modern stations. Nothing like this. She started to say something, to ask about it. But before she could finish the thought, the driver reached forward and turned the radio off. Silence flooded the car again, heavy, uncomfortable, and this time, it didn't feel normal anymore. If you want, I can continue this into a full, terrifying story with a twist ending. This setup is perfect for something really chilling. Here's the continuation of your story, adapted into a U.S. setting, maintaining third-person indirect narration with added suspense and originality. The driver had said that music only distracted the mind at night. that silence was better. Nisha had forced a small, polite laugh at that, though it hadn't come naturally. She had then turned her face toward the window, pretending to be at ease. But somewhere deep inside, something had already begun to shift. A faint uneasiness crept into her chest, slow and steady, like a whisper she couldn't quite hear. The car kept moving. Minutes passed, then she noticed it. A large billboard stood by the roadside, illuminated by a flickering spotlight. St. Haven Family Diner, open 24/7. Below the text was the smiling face of a young man, frozen in an overly cheerful expression. Nisha barely registered it the first time, but as the car turned again, there it was, the same billboard, right in front of her. This time, something was wrong. The 24/7 sign looked damaged, burnt almost. The 7 had darkened into something unrecognizable, like the number itself had been erased or corrupted. Her stomach tightened. She was certain she had just seen it moments ago. Slowly, she glanced down at her phone. The signal bars flickered, then disappeared for a second. The GPS arrow froze in place, as if the map had stopped tracking reality altogether. Then, a WhatsApp notification pinged. It was from Sana, her colleague and closest friend. The message was casual, normal. She was asking if Nisha had left yet, mentioning that the shift swap for the next day was confirmed. Relief flickered across Nisha's face. Something normal. Something real. She quickly started typing a reply, but before she could send it, her phone rang. The caller ID read, Sana, office. Nisha answered immediately, slightly confused, mentioning that Sana had just texted her. But what came from the other end made her blood run cold. Sana sounded irritated and confused. She insisted that Nisha hadn't even left the office yet. She said she was standing at the main gate right now. The security guard had told her that Nisha was still waiting for a cab. And worse, the cab booking had been canceled. Nisha felt the world tilt. Her grip tightened around the phone as her breathing grew shallow. Slowly, almost mechanically, she leaned forward from the back seat and looked out through the windshield. The road ahead was dark, empty, endless. She tried to explain, her voice shaky, that she had already been in the cab for 10 minutes, but Sana kept repeating the same thing. She was at the office, waiting, and Nisha was not there. Then, the call cut, abruptly. The screen went black. A low battery icon blinked rapidly for a second, and the phone died, completely. Nisha panicked. She pressed the power button again and again, but nothing happened. The phone remained lifeless in her hands, and then she remembered something she had seen earlier, the trip history. Her fingers trembled as the memory surfaced in fragments. The last completed ride. Driver, Mahesh Patel. Date, July 2nd, last year. Pickup, office location. Drop, same address she used today. Time 2:50 a.m. to 3:15 a.m. Her breath caught. Today was also July 2nd, and the time, almost the same. Another memory flashed in her mind. A news article she had once skimmed, saved offline without much thought. A headline about a rideshare driver, an accident near a small roadside shrine along a highway. The driver had died, the passenger had escaped, the case had remained unsolved. And the photo, the face in the article had looked disturbingly familiar. Too familiar, like the man sitting in front of her now. The car no longer followed any normal route. It had veered deep into a wooded area, something like the outskirts near Redwood Regional Park. Dense trees crowded both sides of the narrow road, their branches swallowing the light. Only the car's headlights cut through the darkness, creating a tunnel of pale illumination. Then she saw it. A small roadside shrine. A flickering flame burned weakly inside it, struggling against the wind. A red cloth tied to a pole fluttered restlessly, as if trying to signal something. For a brief moment, the driver glanced at it, and just as quickly, looked away, as if he didn't want to see it, didn't want to be seen by it. Nisha's voice trembled as she asked whether he always drove at this hour, whether he took other rides. The driver paused, then spoke quietly. He said that at certain hours of the night, some roads closed, not physically, but for certain people, and some passengers, never reached their destination. They got off midway. His words lingered in the air like something alive. The car continued forward, and in the distance, a faint, flickering light appeared. Not steady, not welcoming, just waiting. If you want, I can finish this with a dark twist ending, very scary plus mind-bending. Here is the final continuation and climax of your story, adapted into a US setting in third-person indirect narrative with a deeper psychological horror twist. Up ahead, a checkpoint appeared, or at least something that looked like one. Dim barricades stood across the road, and behind them were a few shadowy figures, their outlines barely visible under weak, flickering lights. It resembled a late-night police stop, the kind set up on empty highways. Relief surged through Nisha. She leaned forward quickly, her voice urgent but controlled, saying she would get down there. She insisted she could take another ride from that point. Anything was better than continuing this journey. The driver slowed the car. The engine softened. For a moment, it felt like she was safe, but the car did not stop. As they moved closer, something began to change. The lights at the checkpoint started dimming. Not all at once, but gradually, unnaturally. The figures standing near the barricades blurred at the edges, their shapes losing definition. Their forms turned faint, then translucent, and then they were gone. Completely. As the car passed through the checkpoint, there was nothing there. No barricades, no officers, no lights, just empty road. Nisha's breath caught in her throat. She twisted around to look behind them. Only darkness followed, a hollow, endless stretch of road. The car continued forward. Soon, it climbed onto an isolated overpass, somewhere on the outskirts near Bay Bridge. Below, the city lights shimmered in the distance like a scattered galaxy, beautiful, distant, and completely unreachable. But up on the bridge, there was no one else. No cars, no movement, no sound, only them. Then the dashboard clock flickered. 3:33 a.m. The seconds digit began to blink, but time did not move forward. Nisha's voice trembled as she tried to ask who he really was. The words barely formed, breaking apart in her throat. The driver stayed silent for a while. Then, he smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. There was exhaustion in it, and something deeper. A quiet, endless sadness. He spoke slowly, almost as if recalling a memory he had told too many times. He said people used to say things like that when they saw his name in the news. 1 year ago, on the same night, at the same time, he had been driving a passenger home. He had been tired, too tired, but greed, or maybe just habit, had pushed him to accept a few extra rides. Somewhere near a roadside shrine, along a dark highway, another vehicle had struck them from behind. The car had flipped, the passenger had survived, and run. He had not. He said he remembered lying there, unable to move, staring at the road, waiting. An ambulance had come, but too late, and ever since that night, sometimes, at this exact hour, the system glitched. His name appeared again, and someone accepted the ride. Nisha felt her mind collapsing under the weight of it. Her voice broke as she demanded to know what he wanted from her. She said she just wanted to go home. The driver's smile faded slightly. He said that was all he had wanted too, to go home. But someone had taken that away from him. Panic finally shattered whatever control Nisha had left. She screamed, telling him to stop the car, insisting she wasn't part of this, that she wasn't some ghost trapped in his story. For a moment, he pressed the brake. The car slowed. Hope flickered, but before it could stop, the steering wheel jerked. The tires resisted. It was as if something unseen had taken control. The car trembled slightly, then began moving forward again, helpless, unstoppable. He said quietly that he wanted to stop too, but he couldn't. He was stuck, somewhere on this road, forever repeating it. Nisha's breathing turned ragged. Her heart pounded violently against her chest. She pressed herself back into the seat as if distance could protect her. Her eyes drifted upward to the rearview mirror, and she saw herself, but something was wrong. Her face looked pale, too pale. The dark circles under her eyes were deeper than before. Her expression, distant. Then she noticed it. A thin, dark line across her neck, right where the seatbelt rested. It looked like dried blood, or something worse. Her hand shot up to touch her throat. But she felt nothing. No wound, no pain, just cold skin. A terrifying realization began to form. Sometimes the thing people try to escape from is not beside them, but within them. Her thoughts spiraled, fragments connected, the canceled ride, Sana waiting at the gate, the guard saying she never left, the frozen time, the repeating date, her reflection. Something inside her broke. Slowly, she closed her eyes, took a deep, trembling breath, and tried, desperately, to understand what was real. Because somewhere between the office gate and this endless road, Nisha had never actually made it into a cab, and maybe she never left at all. If you want, I can. Add a final shocking last scene, hospital-socked CCTV twist, or turn this into a YouTube-ready horror script with hooks, plus narration pacing. Here is the final resolution of your story, adapted into a US setting, keeping the third-person indirect narrative, with a chilling but complete ending. Nisha's voice trembled, but there was a strange clarity in her thoughts now. If the driver was trapped, then maybe she was too. Maybe this wasn't just his loop. Maybe she was part of it. She told him to turn back, to go to the exact place where it had all begun. The roadside shrine, the spot where the accident had happened. The driver tightened his grip on the steering wheel. For the first time, something changed in his expression. Fear, not for her, for himself. It was as if she had touched a memory he had spent an eternity trying not to relive. Silence filled the car, heavy, unavoidable. Then slowly, the car turned. It left the empty overpass, descended into darkness, and began retracing its path toward the forested road near Redwood Regional Park. The night had deepened. The world outside felt even more distant now, like reality itself had stepped back. And then, they saw it. A small roadside shrine stood alone by the edge of the road. Simple, quiet, unmoving. A single flame burned inside it. But unlike everything else that night, the flame did not flicker. It stood still, unaffected by the wind. The car rolled to a stop beside it. This time, it actually stopped. The engine hummed faintly, then died. Silence followed, a deep, suffocating silence. The driver spoke softly, almost to himself. He said he could only ever reach this point. Every time, everything blurred after this. There was always a loud crash, and then darkness. Nisha didn't reply. She simply opened the door. This time, it wasn't locked. Cold air rushed against her face as she stepped out. For the first time since the ride began, she felt like she had control. Her legs carried her toward the shrine. Each step felt heavy, but real. She reached out and picked up the small hanging bell. Her hands trembled. She closed her eyes and prayed. Not perfectly, not with ritual, but with desperation. She asked, if she was still alive, then let her be free. And if she wasn't, then at least free him. Her grip tightened, and she rang the bell. Once, loud, sharp. The sound cut through the silence like a blade. And then, a voice, close, familiar, too real to belong to that place. Someone was calling her, urgently, repeatedly. She heard her name. She felt something shake her. And suddenly, she opened her eyes. She was lying on a bench, right outside her office building in San Francisco. Her bag rested beside her. Her phone was still in her hand. A security guard stood over her, slightly worried, explaining that she had fallen asleep there. He mentioned that a cab had arrived twice for her but got canceled when she didn't respond. Nisha sat up abruptly, as if pulled out of deep water. Her breathing was uneven, her heart still racing. She looked at her phone. 2:59, AM battery 57%, signal, full everything, normal, too normal. Then another voice called out from the gate, Sana. She walked in, slightly annoyed, holding her phone, saying she had been waiting outside for 10 minutes. The guard had told her that Nisha was still there, waiting for a cab, but instead she had been asleep on the bench. Nisha tried to speak, tried to explain that she had been in a car, that the driver's name was... But Sana cut her off, confused. There had been no driver. The app had shown driver not found. The ride had never even been properly booked. That's why she had come back to pick her up. Nisha fell silent. Her mind refused to settle. Slowly, she looked back down at her phone. Her fingers trembled as she opened the ride app. The screen loaded, and then a suggestion appeared. Recommended driver for your usual route. Mahesh Patil, online. Now her thumb hovered over the Book Now button. For a moment, she didn't breathe. Then, she locked her phone, gripped her bag tightly, and said quietly, she wasn't taking a cab tonight, but somewhere, on an empty road that shouldn't exist, a white car still waited, engine running, headlights on, and the app still searching for a passenger. Here is the final ending scene, adapted into a US setting, keeping the third-person indirect narrative and enhancing the eerie, lingering horror. Sana had asked, half annoyed and half concerned, whether Nisha planned to walk all the way home. Of course she wouldn't. She told her to stay put, that they would go together. Maybe find a late-night ride nearby, something safer. But not a cab, not tonight, not again. Nisha didn't argue. She simply nodded. The two of them walked back inside the building lobby in San Francisco. The bright lights inside felt almost unreal after everything she had just experienced. The polished floors, the quiet hum of air conditioning, the distant echo of footsteps, it all felt normal. Too normal. As they approached the elevator, something pulled Nisha's attention back to her phone. Almost unconsciously, she opened her gallery and froze. At the very top, there was a new photo, one she did not remember taking. The timestamp read 3:33 a.m. Her fingers trembled as she tapped on it. It was the inside of a car. The angle suggested it had been taken from the back seat. The front seats were empty, no driver, no one behind the wheel. But in the rearview mirror, someone was sitting there, looking directly into the camera. It was him, Mahesh, his face pale, eyes heavy with exhaustion, and on his lips, a faint, tired smile that felt far too real to be just an image. Nisha's grip loosened. The phone nearly slipped from her hand. At that exact moment, the elevator arrived with a soft chime. The doors slid open, spilling warm light into the hallway. Sana stepped inside first, casually suggesting that Nisha stay over at her place for the night. She said she would drop her home in the morning anyway. Late-night rides weren't exactly the safest option anymore. Nisha didn't respond immediately. She stood there for a second longer, staring at the photo. Her thumb hovered over the delete option. She could erase it, pretend none of it happened, convince herself it was just a dream, a hallucination born out of exhaustion. But something stopped her. Instead, she locked the phone, without deleting the image, without saying a word, and stepped into the elevator. The doors closed slowly, sealing them inside. They say cities like San Francisco never truly sleep. Life keeps moving, lights stay on, people come and go. But sometimes, somewhere between one turn and the next, a moment gets stuck. A night refuses to end, and a few unlucky souls never reach home. So the next time you accept the last cab of the night, you might want to think twice, because not every ride is meant to drop you off. If this story gave you chills, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more real horror.